We just got a brand new look at the live-action How to Train Your Dragon movie when this trailer surprise dropped an hour ago. Now the video is only 60 seconds, so you already know I've seen it 60 times. So now, I'm going to slow the whole thing down and point out everything I noticed in this brand new trailer. And obviously, because this is a remake of the first How to Train Your Dragon movie, first off, go watch that, mainly because it's great, but also because this video will contain spoilers for that entire movie. Thank you. And without further ado, let's get into it. So we start out with the same opening shot we got in the first trailer, with the waves crashing against the cliffs on the Isle of Burke. We then get a good look at Stoik the Vast, Hiccup's father, and I believe this is the scene where he sets out with an entire fleet of ships to go hunt down Dragon Island and put an end to the dragons once and for all. But now comes the really exciting part. We now get our very first look at Stormfly, the deadly natter, really up close and personal as she shoots out her magnesium fire, and you can see it slightly spark up, and I love that attention to detail. That is exactly how they portray the deadly natter's fire blast in the animation, and especially if anybody recalls this, the 2010 app Flame It, where it not only confirmed that the deadly natter had the hottest fire in all of Dragonkind, but it also showed it lighting up exactly like this. I love that. Now, I can confidently assume that this is going to be the first scene we have with Stormfly in the movie. I'm sure we'll see other deadly natters earlier in the film, especially with them just attacking the village in the beginning. But if you look in the background, you can see giant wooden walls behind the natter, and I'm assuming this is going to be like the scene where Gobber trains the teens, with the giant wooden maze in the arena, to teach them about blind spots, avoiding the tail spikes, and maneuvering around in the arena efficiently. Now this next shot shows Stoik on Dragon Island after breaking through the Red Death's lair. And here we can see him give the signal for the catapult in order to light up the cavern, revealing all of the dragons which would eventually fly away. Now this is like the best shot that I really wanted to talk about because this is the money shot. This is the one where we see tons of dragons in detail. Now here is where we get our first look at many of the dragons, including the hideous Zibbleback, the terrible terror, the Gronkle, and even two species that didn't appear in the first movie. One of which is the Rumblehorn, which debuted in How to Train Your Dragon 2, and the other is the Skrill. Now, in the very beginning and end of this clip, I see two dragons that share a build, and if I were to choose any existing dragon that this could be, it would be the Skrill, and that also adds up because that is a pretty well-known dragon that I could see them wanting to incorporate into the film. Now, as far as the Rumblehorn goes, that is definitely no doubt a Rumblehorn, considering its unique build, its club tail, and the iridescent scales on its body. And I think the reason they would include this dragon is because it played a much bigger part in the second movie, so why not establish it now while also adding new dragons to the mix, considering the first movie only had 7 different species in it. Now the Zibbleback has very beady eyes, and it looks really great with the patterning on it. It looks like it has a very stubby neck in these shots, but if you look at ones that come later on, you can see that its neck is definitely longer than it seems here. As far as the Gronkle goes, we don't get a good look at that one at all, but it looks pretty faithful to the original movie's design. Now the Terrible Terror gets a really cool look here. It almost looks like it's borrowing a look from a panther chameleon, which is really cool because that means that they're continuing to take inspiration from real life animals, and I always enjoy when they do that. Now, initially, I had thought this was a parallel to the scene where Hiccup and Astrid were riding on Toothless and he got the signal to go towards Dragon Island, but I realize now that's not the case for 2 reasons. One, none of these dragons are carrying any livestock or anything for the Red Death to feed on, and second, in the background, you can see tons and tons of lit flames, all sort of in an order, which is what I believe to be the flaming cannonballs that are inside of the catapults from Burke's fleet. So I believe this scene takes place directly after Stoik opens fire on the island. Now here we see Mason Thames' Hiccup in disarray. This is absolutely right before he has to go and kill the dragon, the monstrous nightmare we'll see later on. Of course, followed by the same exact scene with his darkened silhouette as he's about to betray all of Viking kind, including his own father. We then get a cool overhead shot of the dragon training arena, which is where a majority of this film is going to be spent. Now here we see Stoik handing Hiccup the axe, which originally took place in their home, which could still be taking place in their home, but I'm not 100% certain about that, because some of the background looks like sketches and maps, which could be part of Hiccup's blacksmith workshop, which wouldn't be totally crazy to say since they do have a scene later on in the film in the same location. However, considering these trailers have seemed to go 1 for 1 with a lot of shots in the original film, I think it would be a little bit weird if they switched it up now. So I'm going to say this is definitely the house, but also not definitely. So don't hold me to that, but also hold me to that, you know what I mean? Now this shot was really cool and really unexpected, but we get our first look at Hookfang, the monstrous nightmare, in this live action version. Now, the coloring, phenomenal. The scale, phenomenal. He looks huge and threatening. Those horns are also super awesome. And again, the patterning on the wings just looks amazing. It looks natural. It looks cool. And the tips of his wings and the tips of those spines on his back could just be the coloration, but it looks almost like he's calming down from setting himself ablaze. It looks like there's tiny little trickles of fire still on the edge of his tips. Now, I could totally see how they could have gone more stylized with the look of the Monstrous Nightmare, and I totally would have been all for that. However, I do think that this still looks really, really nice. I think it looks great, actually. And I could totally see how they adapted the look of the Monstrous Nightmare from its appearance in the Arena Spectacular as an animatronic. Alright, now, don't worry, we're going to address the dragon in the room. However, I first want to talk about how great these shots look. This one and the next one just look incredible. They look like they really do justice to this being a live action remake. I just think the lighting, the effects, the way the water looks, it just looks phenomenal. But we're going to go back for a second and look at that, because that right there is the Red Death. The largest dragon in the movie, the big bad villain at the end, which I did not think they would show in trailers at all, but I love this tiny little glimpse of it, in which we see it still has the little tiny red dots that sort of give it its name, since it's 95% gray, but that fire, again, just looks so faithful to the original. It just looks like super powerful blasts of methane flame just incinerating the entire fleet, and I cannot wait to see this thing fly in the air. Now this next scene is Stoic taking some of his first steps on Dragon Island, followed by a whole bunch of Vikings near him. And we're back in the house, or the blacksmith shop, but probably the house. Now this next shot is all of the dragons leaving the dragon's lair when the Red Death reveals itself for the first time and takes a bite out of a grunkle. Well, not so much a bite, more so swallowing it whole. The cool thing about this scene, obviously there's a billion dragons, but after going in one by one, it looks like a lot of them can just be attributed to the main 6 that we know already, including the Rumblehorn, which does show up a few times in this, but it's not static enough of a shot for me to really take out each and every single one and see if there's any new dragon species that we might not know about, or returning ones that might be added in this as well. However, something I absolutely can notice is that this is the only shot we've gotten so far of Toothless's brown tail fin, and we can also see the entire line riding up to the saddle. I can't make out Hiccup and Astrid on his back, but I would assume that they would be riding on Toothless at this scene because this takes place directly after Romantic Flight. Now there's not a ton to analyze in the following shots. It's pretty much the same play-by-play of Hiccup discovering Toothless just off Raven Point after he's collapsed, trapped, and injured. The one thing I will note that's actually different from the original is that when Toothless opens his eye, it's super sympathetic, it's super cute, inviting, whereas in the original, Toothless had really beady, thin, intimidating reptilian eyes. This one, he's just going for that cute factor, and you know what, I'm gonna give it to him. He's cute, he wins, awesome. And then comes the attack scene, where Hiccup frees Toothless for the very first time and he goes full Night Fury mode, because as we know, every dragon goes for the kill. And then we get the shots we saw in the original trailer of Toothless approaching Hiccup out of curiosity, the beginning of their friendship, and eventually their first moment of trust. That iconic scene with the hand on the head that's become a symbol of this friendship for a decade now. Now this might just seem boring, like, oh, it's the title, but I really do love this because they're putting the Night Fury as the letter O in the logo, and that just differentiates it from the original, and I love that a lot. I think it really, really works for this. But on top of just the visuals, the music in the background, composed by John Powell, returning from the other 3 films, is just a super epic and orchestral version of Test Drive, which has slowly become the most well-known track of the entire franchise. But then that's not even the end of the trailer, because then we get these really cute scenes of Toothless with those big old eyes as he watches Hiccup draw him in the sand. Now, of course, this is referencing the entire Forbidden Friendship scene from the original movie, but also that exact drawing was posted on the actor Mason Thames' Instagram months ago as a little teaser. He tried throwing us off saying it's not the drawing, but he might be a little liar sometimes, and that's okay. And then of course we see Toothless mimicking this and using the tree trunk to just scribble whatever he wants because he is a primitive beast in this film. So of course he draws squiggly lines, which is different from the squiggly lines he draws in the animated version. And then we end on that super cute shot of him almost half smiling, making noises, trying to get Hiccup's approval, which is cute, wonderful, and a great end to a trailer. Now, a little cool thing for us longtime fans is that this movie itself, releasing on June 13th, is an Easter egg altogether, because the second movie released on June 13th, 2014, exactly 11 years before this one will. Now, of course, it's offered in all different formats, but also 3D, which I will always recommend seeing one of these films in 3D because you just get a whole new scope of the dragons flying, their wings, the perspective. It's awesome. These movies will always be ones I will always recommend to see in 3D. Now, at the bottom, we of course have the new website, welcometoburke.com, which I had visited right before making this video, and instantly, this brand new trailer is already on there front and center. So not much else is going on with the site at the moment, but you can sign up for new updates, and I'm sure it'll expand in the future. That'll be all for now. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe for more content like this. I am absolutely going to be covering this movie until its release, and probably even after. You know what? Definitely after. So stick around. How to Train Your Dragon is my favorite franchise of all time, so I'd love to continue to be so passionate about this and bring you guys along for the ride. Thanks again for watching. Hope you learned something new.